that climate change is not caused by humans.
The campaign against global warming seems to have gone bust.
Do you think Lex has stands that ask, why are you platforming socialists? No, of course not. Of course not. Because right-wing and right-wing adjacent communities don't fucking complain about dumb shit like that. They love it. They love, like, oh man, our ideas are getting out there. That's great. You were able to put our ideas in front of a larger audience. And I personally love that shit, is how they think. You know?
Started as an effort to protect the environment. It is not that anymore.
A 2014 study found that 72% of references to climate change on Fox News in 2013 were misleading. Viewers were 31% more likely to agree with the statement that it's not clear that Obama was born in the United States.
It's not a birth certificate, Candy, and people are trying to figure out why isn't he giving his birth certificate. It's not a birth certificate.
60% believe that American Muslims...
That was so wild. Like, for the longest time, motherfuckers were straight up being like, Obama's not American. That's... Oh God, dude. This country is so fucked. Of course it was fucked. It was fucked from the jump, but goddamn, has it been getting proper fucked in recent years? You know what I mean?
Muslims are not an important part of the US religious community.
There's a lot of trash talking going on between President Obama and presumptive presidential nominee Donald Trump over Muslims and what they do or don't believe.
And 68% believe that the values of Islam are at odds with American values. Fox News, the most popular news channel.
I love that take. The values of Islam are at odds with American values is such a funny one. Because obviously, one, Islam does not have like a monolithic value structure any more than any other organized religion. There's obviously billions of people who practice it in dramatically different ways. Okay? But also, even the like reactionary understanding of what Islamic values are, right? A religious theocracy that oppresses women and oppresses like gay people is unironically the most like core American fucking value. If Islam as a unified value was exactly the way that reactionaries, pointed to it, Americans want it. They just want white people to do it. Okay? That's the only value. It's just when you think of Islam, you don't think of white people. You think of fucking brown people. That's the only difference.
In America, with imitators popping up across the globe, has indisputably changed the news media landscape. Some have even argued it's now part of the Republican Party machinery.
It was designed.
Others say it's the other way around.
No, it was designed to lead the Republican Party. It was created by a Republican operative.
Said that Republicans originally thought that Fox worked for us, and now we're discovering we work for Fox. To understand the Fox News phenomenon, how it influences the international, let alone the national conversation, where it came from, what it gets wrong, and what it gets right, we need to situate the rise of Murdoch's news empire in its wider context. The rise of television as a medium, what that meant for how information is presented to us, and how that changed how we approach politics. Because Fox News is not just about Fox News, it's about how we've all changed, how, in Marshall McLuhan's tired but timeless words, the medium that we communicate in, whether book, newspaper, radio, television, or the internet, is the message. Television created new ways to shape how the world is presented. So we'll see how many who are critical of Fox need to acknowledge that they do get a lot right, and that we can situate Fox in a larger historical arc, one that reaches right back to the Enlightenment, to Romanticism, through to today, to this idea that for good or for bad, Fox might be the best example we have of a postmodern news channel. Of course, the O'Reillys and the Hannitys and the Carlsons of the world and this guy have always been around. But it takes a particular historical, philosophical, political and regulatory shape for them to fit through, for the tropes, the motifs and the elements that they employ in their delivery to be accepted and aired in the first place.
Okay, I don't want to learn about the history of TV news, dude, or constructing Nixon. I might jump to...
Seeing as our sight, our eyes, are the most important and the most sensitive for...
Like, this video is really good. It's an hour and 24 minutes long. You can watch the whole thing. It's from then and now. Obviously, the video itself has multiple chapters, and it's going to go into... It's going to basically go... It's like a full lesson, right? I don't want to watch, like... It's an hour and 24 minutes long. So I want to watch through, I want to skip through some of the parts, like, because he's literally just like, in order to construct the narrative, he is basically going back to the basics, right? I mean, he's talking about fucking like how light attracts your eyes and shit, right? You don't have to talk about how like the universe was created in the Big Bang Theory in order to describe this. More viewers than views on the YouTube video? What do you mean? No, this is a new video. That's why it'll pop off. This video will probably get a lot of fucking views. It's a great video. I highly recommend it. But let's start with the construction of Nixon.
Fox News, when it was launched on October the 7th, 1996, was the brainchild of one man,
Roger Ailes.
He is born in 1940,
a Republican operative.
Graduated from Ohio University in 1962 with a major in radio and television. The loud, bombastic, opinionated and controversial Roger Ailes may have been responsible for more politicians and presidents being elected than any man in history. In the early 60s, his first job was on a local talk show, The Mike Douglas Show. The show became a phenomenon, went national, and Douglas became the highest paid star on television. The Mike Douglas Show was where Ailes began honing his craft, learning that television was about drama, spontaneity, and appearances. Producer of the show, Woody Fraser, taught Ailes that the most important ingredient for a daily show was to keep it fresh, and one way was to keep people off balance, not knowing what would happen, sitting on the edge of their seats. It's when people get bored that they switch channels. Another producer later said that Roger was just completely interested and intrigued by the mechanics of the ways these guys presented themselves and talked. During his 1968 presidential campaign, while appearing as a guest on The Mike Douglas Show, Nixon told Ailes, "It's a shame a man has to use gimmicks like this to get elected." "Television is not a gimmick," Ailes responded, "and if you think it is, you'll lose again." Nixon had come off poorly on the very first televised debates between him and Kennedy, and Ailes' confidence and inside knowledge about a new medium impressed Nixon and his aides. The Nixon team hired Ailes, and the work they did would soon change political campaigning forever. Ailes knew from his work on The Mike Douglas Show that television was about something contradictory, artificial authenticity. You had to construct the appearance of spontaneity, as all of his contemporaries were to become aware as they read McLuhan's influential new book. The medium was the message. At the time, Ailes made a prescient observation. He said, "Nixon is not a child of TV, and he may be the last candidate who couldn't make it on the Johnny Carson show and could make it in an election." Politics, he was discovering, was now about television. The two were becoming intertwined. "This is it," he said. "This is the way they'll be elected
Absolutely correct
forevermore.
take, by the way.
The next guys up will have to be performers."
And the future of that is now, and we are living through it, the internet. but it was absolutely the fucking correct take. 100,000% obviously. Roger Ailes is perhaps, like, there are a lot of demons and a lot of actors that you can point to. I'm not usually not in the interest of like pointing to individual actions that have played a role in destroying American civilization as you understand it and know it. But Roger Ailes is one of those people that you probably could point the finger at and go, that man right there, he did the bidding. Okay? He did the bidding of capital owners. I mean, he was really
Ailes
fucking
organised
bad.
TV spots for the campaign that
He
had
accelerated it
supposedly
dramatically.
ordinary voters asking Nixon questions in town hall style meetings. To the viewer, the encounters appeared natural, but the questions were staged and the answers pre-prepared. Ailes knew that because television was mostly local, Nixon could reuse pre-prepared stock phrases over and over in different locations without the risk of being found out or it looking phony. In the book he later wrote, You Are the Message, he wrote, on an index card you can keep in your wallet, list the key phrases of 10 stories that will entertain audiences for the next 10 years. He knew that more than just the authentic individual, the television medium was about presentation, style, emotion, camera work, the set. Style. Ailes more or less invented the idea of the soundbite. He wrote, television is a hit-and-run medium. The general public is just not sophisticated enough to wade through answers. Therefore, at least some of Mr. Nixon's answers should end with a specific graphic, a succinct, memorable comment. He said Nixon should use descriptive, visual phrases. Emotion. He knew television was about moments, usually dramatic, spontaneous and unpredictable moments, even if you had to plan the spontaneous moments. He collaborated on the Nixon campaign with speechwriter and Nixon aide Raymond Price, who introduced him to the idea that politics is similar to TV. He said, politics is much more emotional than it is rational, and this is particularly true of presidential politics. Camera work. Ailes was impressed with Leni Riefenstahl's grind.
Politics is only much more emotional than it is rational because we do not have a vehicle of change. There is no mechanism for change. People do not feel that like they have any semblance of power to enact change. They understand that the structures are oppressive. They don't even recognize why they're oppressive. They think the villains are the people that television tells them to vilify. And that is precisely the reason why you can get away with this kind of fucking garbage on television. That is a byproduct of the capitalist organization of society. Okay?
Groundbreaking Nazi propaganda piece, The Triumph of the Will, as many in film and television were at the time. The film was full of shots and camera angles and set pieces and dialogue, all focused on curating the image of the Fuhrer. Mike Douglas producer Kenny.
We've talked about the aesthetics of fascism a lot, but fascists understand this really well. That is the reason why they have Hugo Boss suits. You know what I mean? Like they've always cared about aesthetics a lot and have done a very good job of presenting themselves a certain way.
Johnson recalled that he and Ailes would talk about the psychological power of camera placement. He said, there's so many subtle things you see in propaganda. If you put the camera below the subject's eye height, it's the hero shot. It gives him dominance, for example. The set. When on set with Nixon in Chicago, Ailes complained that those stupid bastards on the set designing crew put turquoise curtains in the background. He had them removed and replaced with wooden panels that had, quote, clean, solid, masculine lines. He wanted the subliminal feeling of Nixon being the hero at battle in an arena. He wrote, even if a viewer is not in favour of Richard Nixon, by 15 minutes into the programme, he almost subconsciously begins to root for him. And Nixon tended to sweat a lot, so they had the air conditioning turned right up to counter the studio lighting and made sure that they used the right makeup. After the Nixon campaign, Ailes was featured in Joe Mc...
Yes, chat, you're not the only one who knows about Edward Bernays, the father of propaganda, okay? Yes, I've talked about Edward Bernays many, many times over. I don't want to get all the way back to that, okay? I don't want to talk about Edward Bernays right now on a video that has 13,000, 15,000 views. Freyer Eugen, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? It's already a 2-hour video. Shut up.
Best-selling, The Selling of the President.
Hyper-focus on Roger Ailes and Fox News, okay? God damn, chat always want to be like, dude, I'm so much smarter than everybody else in this chat. Like, no, everybody knows.
One memo from the book read, reason requires a high degree of discipline, of concentration. Impression is easier. Reason pushes the viewer back. impression can envelope him, invite him in.
Normally it works.
It revealed that Ailes
but
was
right now
obsessed with
your attempt
details
to
like
spice up the
colour of
content is
makeup on
derailing.
Nixon's eyelids, the demographic of the audience in shot, the presence or the absence of something like a frown. Within the Republican Party, Ailes quickly became a superstar. With his reputation growing, he began his own consulting business. Republicans clamoured over him, hoping that they too could be the next Nixon. But Nixon had been teaching Ailes something too, something that changed the dynamic of American politics. Ailes later remembered that I never had a political thought until they asked me to join the Richard Nixon presidential campaign. The Nixon campaign had run on now familiar populist logic. It was that there were a group of liberal establishment politicians, media moguls, businessmen, executive producers, journalists and anchormen, a cabal of elitist snobs that was out of touch, unaligned with the views of the silent majority of honest, hard-working, decent Americans. The elites were political.
That was like the OG. That was the OG, like, hard hat wearing, like, you know, the hard hat wearing real Americans going against the pussy hippies, like in the liberal institutions and liberal elites that wanted to promote moral decay and moral degeneracy. Hippies were going out and fucking in the streets. Meanwhile, the real rugged Americans were hard hat wearing reactionaries, actually.
Politically correct Eastern Coast liberals who like to tell the dim-witted how to live, what to do, and what to think. And television had already become a powerful part of that establishment elite. By the 70s, the television networks had become a powerful force in American life. They saw themselves, like journalists and philosophers and authors before them, as being a rational avant-garde, leading the nation into the future. But they were already being seen as elitist and arrogant. They were already beginning to be met with suspicion. In his history of television news, historian Charles Ponce de Leon writes, "They were losing, in part, because they were seeking to inform through a medium that was poorly suited for rational discourse and the sober, objective analysis of complex issues and events." Ailes turned away from politics for a period. He worked on different television shows and even on Broadway, putting on 2 shows that were met with a lukewarm reception. But he kept his consulting work and his spell in theatre, his experience and experimentation with different styles on TV, and his exposure to the most powerful politicians in the country would soon begin to synthesize into a potent, latent, bubbling force. In 1974...
Hasan, stop giving chat attention for 5 minutes and the psychos go crazy? Yeah, no, literally. The entire fucking chat is falling apart.
Beer business mogul Joseph Coors.
Let him spam. I don't care. So, you know what? You want to know what the worst part about it is? And I hate to admit this. XQC's like 14-year-old Zoomer fucking audience are better spammers than all the fucking weirdos in here. And that's what's really sad. Because at least when XQC spammers spam, they're spamming alongside the content. When you guys spam, you're spamming for attention. That's like the saddest reality, is that like all these fucking 14-year-old little juicer babies with their baby brains are unironically funnier and spam with respect to what's going on that we're all watching together. Whereas when you spam, you're just spamming like sussy, 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 pay attention to me, pay attention to me. It's sad.
A conservative
spam better.
News network, TVN.
No, if you're gonna spam, there's an art to
Fox
it.
Would later become. Like Nixon, he believed that the left dominated the media and the wider political establishment. He said all 3 networks slant the news with innuendos, accents, the sneers they make. He later said that we got into it because of our strong belief that the network news is slanted to the liberal left side of the spectrum and does not give an objective view to the American public. Former Nixon aide Bruce Hershenson wrote a memo to TVN staff explaining how television could be used to promote conservative viewpoints. It became a model for later imitators. The memo included the concept of pretense balancing, quote, showing all sides of a particular story when in fact the balance is tilted, and the hold frame, holding the camera in a flattering or unflattering position depending on what you wanted to convey. He also encouraged using commentator speculation which would appear to be factual but are actually editorialized. and catchphrases and sex appeal to sell the message, and the simple repetition of stories and opinions. He called repetition the oldest and the most effective propaganda technique. TVN's tagline was the independent news service. Not right-wing, they'd argue, just a balance to the liberal elite bias in the rest of the media. Journalist Stanhope Gold wrote a story about TVN in 1975 entitled Cause Brews the News, which criticised the network and called Ailes, quote, the only man in history to run a national news organisation while owning an entertainment industry consulting firm.
They were owning him for fucking shit that made him kind of smart and ahead of the game.
The article damaged TVN's reputation from the start,
I gotta pee,
and
I'll
the
be
network only ran for 2 years. But while it struggled, TVN did lay the groundwork for what was soon to come. After TVN collapsed, Ailes continued expanding his consultancy business, and by the 1980s he was one of the most successful political consultants in America and probably in history, helping 13 Republican senators and 8 congressmen to win office. And in that time, he continued to hone his attack ad method. In one advert for Republican Mitch McConnell, Ailes attacked McConnell's Kentucky opponent, Walter Huddleston, for being absent from key votes while away giving paid speeches. Ailes said to the team, "This is Kentucky. I see hound dogs on the scent looking for the lost member of Congress." The ad featured a dog trainer and bloodhounds and a voiceover that said, "My job was to find D. Huddleston and get him back to work. Huddleston was skipping votes but making an extra $50,000 giving speeches. Let's go, boys." The ad concluded with the tagline, "Switch to Mitch for Senator." The truth was that Huddleston had been present for 94% of votes, but it didn't matter. Ailes successfully painted him as lazy and greedy. McConnell won, and as McConnell's campaign manager recalled, the ad, quote, taught every Republican campaign school about how to use humour as a deadly weapon. In '84, Ailes was recruited by Reagan, and in '88 he took on George Bush, who, like Nixon, didn't perform well on television. Ailes suggested Bush play the Gary Cooper character, stoic, a slower-speaking, deep voice. He advised him how to dress, once telling him, "Don't ever wear that shirt again, you look like a f***ing clerk." One Bush campaign ad quickly became the most controversial yet. As governor, Bush's opponent, Michael Dukakis, had signed...
This is not... I mean... This is the secret recipe that a lot of you are probably already very familiar with. It's called racism, okay? A constant similar to the top of the hour ad break, and the way to avoid it, which is, of course, a $5 a month subscription or a free one in the form of a Twitch Prime. But yes, this is a very famous Willie Horton ad that is, now just pretty basic stuff, really. They do it all the fucking time. So, anyway, like I said, Twitch Prime is free as long as you have an Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, connected to your Twitch account, or if you get lucky and get gifted a sub like Sassy, Joao do Brazil, thank you for the 5 gifted, Pecker Protector, Sohabe, thank you for the 5 gifted, allowing 10 people to avoid the top of the hour ad breaks. You can't avoid racism, though, unfortunately, if you live in America. It is a permanent fixture in American institutions and everyday life. Here's the 1 minute ad break now.
Pass that allowed a convicted murderer out of prison for a weekend. While on release, Willie Horton raped a woman and stabbed her boyfriend. The story became a focus of Bush's campaign. Dukakis is soft on criminals, soft on crime.
Just remember, we were literally talking about Donald Trump. LESNB, thank you for the 5 gifted. Remember earlier we were literally talking about Donald Trump and how he like hyperfixates on these like individual acts of violence in an effort to draw home like a much larger narrative. That is exactly what this is, and it is basically like the most common form of racial agitprop that Republican Party uses on a daily basis now. Reds, thank you for the 5 get the subs.
On the death penalty, they said. The ad caused an outcry that Bush's team was stoking racial tensions, and although he denied it, critics said the ad was textbook Ailes. Ailes had allegedly told a reporter, "The only question is whether we depict Willie Horton with a knife in his hand or without it." Bush was also aggravated. He told Ailes, "I want to get back to the issues and quit talking about him." And Ailes responded that they planned to do so the day after the election. Bush won by a large majority, How much the ad contributed to the win, who knows? But as Gabriel Sherman writes, it was validation that Ailes' brand of divisive politics could win national majorities. Ailes went on to work with politicians and media figures like Rudy Giuliani and Rush Limbaugh. Throughout his consultancy years, he became more convinced that more than anything, politics was war.
And the other thing is, like, years and years of depressive campaign or negative campaigning, which always depresses voter turnout, led everyone down to the realization that you don't even need to win majorities, actually. You need to win the system. Okay? You can just game the system. And that's where we're at with the Republican Party now.
Television limited the number of channels that could be broadcast in any area. This limitation of the technology that was inherent in the medium had made the FCC's regulation tolerable even to those usually opposed to government interference, especially on matters of free speech. There were two pillars of the FCC regulation. The 1934 mandate that some of the programmes networks aired had to be in the, quote, public interest, and the fairness doctrine, that broadcasters had to give time to opposing political viewpoints. However, in the 70s, cable and satellite began to make the limitations of analogue obsolete. The range of channels available began to increase.
In 1981, Ronald Reagan repealed the FCC's public interest requirement and abolished the fairness doctrine. A new breed of media quickly developed: talk radio. Shows like Rush Limbaugh's, broadcasting partisan politics, opinionated, unapologetic, and revolutionary. As the cable years developed, more and more varied channels started popping up. Niche channels like Nickelodeon for kids and ESPN for sports launched in 1979.
And Fox News for racists.
And the following year, media mogul Ted Turner started CNN.
and Fox News for brain-dead racists. Which have like a child's brain.
First channel to broadcast news 24/7. We now take 24-hour news for granted, but CNN has been credited with several innovations. A revolving wheel of news, a loop of stories, weather, financial news, and it was the first national news operation which, with a huge investment in reporters, offices and equipment, could go live at the scene whenever possible. Something normal news programmes limited to their pre-scheduled slots just couldn't do. CNN was a success. It made $12.5 million in 1985, $13.5 million in 86, and $60 million in 87. There was clearly a taste for news on demand. It slowly built up offices around the world so it could report on global issues as quickly as possible, and became the go-to for global news events like Tiananmen Square in China or the fall of the Berlin Wall, which CNN broadcast from live. It was the only station on air when the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded in the air in 1986. Rupert Murdoch, already overseeing a global news media empire that included the New York Post, The Sun in the UK, and 20th Century Fox, was taking note. In '86, 20th Century Fox launched A Current Affair. Influenced by Entertainment Tonight and Murdoch's tabloid journalism, it focused on crime, gossip, scandal, and celebrity, anything that could grab a viewer's attention.
One reminder that Breitbart, alongside Fox News, but especially Breitbart, quite literally had a black crime tab. That's right, a black crime tab. Not a crime tab, a black crime tab at the time when what do you call it? Ben Shapiro used to work there, for the record. Yes, Ben Shapiro used to write for Breitbart at a time when they literally had a black crime tab. And this isn't like fucking 60s, man. This is like 4 years ago, 5-6 years ago. Not that long ago.
At the same time, Roger Ailes had been invited to launch a short-lived show on NBC, America's Talking. The goal of the show was to make factual programming more entertaining. Business and stock market news should be approached like sports channels presenting sports.
It's America's Talking, the first all-talk network dedicated to what America is talking about. The first ever daily national conversation. The excitement begins July 4th when we go online with the country's best talk.
Ailes wanted, quote, closer shots, more emotion, bolder sound, voiceovers announcing breaks instead of just music. America's Talking featured chat shows and phone-in programmes like Bugged, in which viewers could talk about the things that were bothering them that day. But like TVN before it, America's Talking struggled, and Ailes, who many at NBC were already suspicious and critical of, was pushed out. In the mid-90s, as MSNBC and ABC
Cancel culture, brother, once again coming
looked
at
to
you.
follow in CNN's footsteps and launch 24-hour news channels, Murdoch wanted in, and he knew that Ailes was the man for the job. Both men had a visceral disdain for channels like MSNBC, which, when it launched in '96, wanted to portray itself in the image of a trendy, urban, downtown coffee bar, where, like shows like Friends...
It was actually the Federalist that had the black crime tag. Breitbart's still overtly racist, though. No, Breitbart had the black crime tag, too. What are you talking about? I mean, dude, look at this. Look. African-American articles, violent crime articles. I looked up Breitbart black crime tag. Down the Breitbart hole.
Seinfeld, co-hosts could sit around drinking coffee, casually and amiably discussing the news and events. To Murdoch and Ailes, this elitist, sneering, metropolitan image concealed the liberal slant that...
Jesus, how did they get away with this? What do you mean, dude? America is deeply fucking racist. How did they get away with it? They get away with it now. Tucker Carlson is the most popular news broadcaster in the country. Tucker Carlson, folks. He literally does white nationalist 14 words propaganda every fucking night. Okay? Every night.
That turned its nose up at the real retro rural American, and worse, told them what to believe and who to vote for. With the repeal of the fairness doctrine, though, they thought, it was time this changed. When he'd repealed the fairness doctrine, Reagan's FCC appointment, Mark Fowler, had famously argued that the public interest was what interested the public. No longer would regulators and establishment executives and politicians decide what counted as news.
This is also part of the reason why I laugh at people who say, like, oh, we should do consumer side activism, right? Or like that consumers can regulate companies and hold them accountable. It's like an entire generation of parents became reactionary psychopaths, okay? Maybe they were always going to be reactionary. Maybe they were already reactionary. But you have to understand that, like, the fairness doctrine is repealed. Fox News goes fucking bananas mode. And an entire generation of people, all of your fucking parents, your grandparents, became even more racist than they originally were. They were like, oh, finally, someone is able to show us. Yeah, here you go. Breitbart tag, black crime. Sarah Palin, I'm suing Azealia Banks for her gang rape demands. Put the fear of God in her by holding her accountable. Tagged under black crime. Video, black suspect stalks robbery victim in Philadelphia, breaks his jaw and inflict head injuries. Hey, by the way, the reason why I'm mentioning the black crime tag is because Tucker Carlson still does this. He just doesn't call it black crime. But if you watch Tucker Carlson every night, he always brings up like some random fucking black dude who like beat a store clerk or some shit.
The market would decide. De Leon writes that in previous decades, most well-educated Americans, including many of the corporate elite, would have rejected market populism as a cynical and potentially dangerous excuse to exploit the public's poor taste and most primitive yearnings. In this view, merely satisfying consumer demand without considering what you were selling was unseemly and amoral. But by the 90s, more and more Americans were criticising the establishment as being out of touch with ordinary American life. While at the same time, instead of cultural uplift, networks increasingly relied on chasing ratings and high viewing figures, more drama, cop shows, celebrity, and scandal. News anchor Dan Rather said in a speech, "They've got us putting more and more fuzz and wuzz on the air, cop show stuff, so as to compete not with other news programmes but with entertainment programmes, including those posing as news programmes." CNN's commitment to pure news began to suffer in this increasingly sensationalist environment, but an event that would change the face of television forever was just around the corner. In 1994, CNN decided to run back-to-back coverage of a trial, O.J. Simpson's. It became a national phenomenon and led to a 500% increase in CNN's viewership. It was clear.
This was the OG. This was the OJ, or the OG motherfucking Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial shit. Okay? That's like, I mean, that, if TV was the medium, now the medium is the internet, and the internet literally had its own OJ moment with an entire generation of people's brains broken, okay? Yeah. The new juicer is Johnny Depp, baby.
Yeah, that what people wanted was emotion, drama, everyday lives under the microscope. Dateline, for example.
Depp was white people's OJ? Man, OJ was white people's OJ too. What the fuck do you mean? You don't remember the famous saying, "I'm not black, I'm OJ"?
Launched in 1992, focused on profiling celebrities or talking about worry-inducing medical stories that might affect you and your life.
It seemed like traditional news, textual, prosaic, the recounting of facts, was being challenged by something else. And it was that something else that Murdoch already knew a lot about.
Rupert Murdoch, 65 years old.
How do you know shit like that? I'm an Ameriboo, brother. That's what it is.
Was already overseeing a global media empire with revenues of $9 billion. He had owned over 24 newspapers, 100 magazines, a book publishing company, 20th Century Fox Film Studios, Sky TV in the UK, Vox in Germany, the New York Post, and he aimed to launch Fox News in 1996.
By this point, Ailes had worked for and engineered the elections of several presidents and numerous politicians, ran a succession of programmes and stations, news and entertainment, and had put on shows on Broadway. He loved show business. Murdoch knew that Ailes was the man for the job.
Internal memos revealed that Fox should counter CNN's stale format that was, quote, breaking news driven, processed event coverage, big story dependent, reactive and slow and predictable. Fox instead should emphasise personality and programming, produced information, appointment TV, news plus human interaction. It should be convenient and interesting and have attitude.
Murdoch would spend $400 million launching the channel and didn't expect it to be profitable until 2001. It aired on the 7th of October 1996 and featured Bill O'Reilly's The O'Reilly Factor at 5 p.m. and Sean Hannity's Hannity and Combs at 9 p.m.
From day one, the focus was on how the network felt, the makeup and sets, hiring people from the entertainment world rather than news. Executive Chet Collier said, quote, viewers don't want to be informed, they want to feel informed.
And at news conferences, Ailes made an extraordinary claim that Fox would be fair and balanced. That was his words, fair and balanced. Because the liberal network used, quote, hot words or code words to present the news with a liberal slant. Instead, Fox News' approach would be neutral. Its slogan was, we report, you decide.
The premiere of the channel had none of the
Wait, what the fuck? Is this a debate? Hello? What? Breaking news. The Justice Department is investigating President Donald Trump's actions as a part of its criminal probe of efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. According to 4 people familiar with the matter, prosecutors who were questioning witnesses before a grand jury have asked in recent days about conversations with Trump, his lawyers, and others in his inner circle sought to substitute Trump allies for certified electors from some states Joe Biden won. Prosecutors are asked hours of detailed questions about meetings Trump led in December 2020 And January 2021, his pressure campaign on Pence to overturn the election and what instructions Trump gave his lawyers and advisors about the fake electors. That's interesting. What the fuck? I love Garland now. Yeah, Dark Brandon and Dark Garland, dude. Dark Garland, the return of Garland. Garland 2, Electric Boogaloo. Merrick Garland sends his regards, dude. You see what I'm saying? Like, they were like, you stole that Supreme Court justice seat from me. You stole that fucking SCOTUS seat from me. Trust the plan. Trust the plan. Dark Garland, dude. He's back. We got Pussy, and then we got Pussy 2. We got Garland, and now we got Garland 2. Punish Garland. Long COVID has changed Brandon. I love these like feckless pussy ass libtards in positions of power, and then like portraying them as these like sexy like beacons of righteous indignation. You know what I mean? Obama did nothing when Bush war crimes back out. Liberals don't do shit in January 6th. Barely anything compared to the war crimes. Dark Merrick. Let's go. Real question, why won't Trump and his people just lie? They've been lying for 2 years. If no one cracks, wouldn't they be off? I don't know, dude. I don't know. Breaking, Donald Trump is rocked by bombshell news as it's revealed that the Justice Department has investigated his personal actions as a part of their criminal probe into the efforts to overturn the 2020 election, meaning he could end up in jail. Retweet to demand an indictment. No, they missed an opportunity. They should have said, retweet to lock him up. Okay, I'm quote tweeting that. Retweet to lock him up. Hashtag Dark Brandon. Hashtag Dark Dark Garland. Hashtag Brandon returns. That's it. That's a fire tweet. I guess we know why Trump is running again. Yeah. How is this exciting to us? Lol. They won't do anything. Libs will love it though, obviously. Yeah, I'm fucking around, dude. Like, win-win. It's funny if they even end up going through with it, because it will 100% upset Donald Trump, which means more content. Okay. And if he does end up somehow on accident, because liberals like stumbled into doing the right thing for once in their fucking lives, end up like punishing Donald Trump, then that's even more content and fucking awesome. So yeah, no, I'm a win-win for me. That's what I'm saying. That's the only thing I'm seeing here is wins, no losses. Trump's gonna be running all right, running for the hills. Keg W. The Dark Merrick hashtag slaps. Yeah, that's sick. That's sick. This is so sick. I'm so tired of winning. We're going to win so hard that you're going to say, I'm tired of winning, folks. Yeah, we have to watch this Dark Brandon video 30 seconds.
It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear. And it absolutely will not stop. Ever. Until you are dead.
Okay, this is pretty good. Tie me to a missile and fire it at the suburbs. I am ready.
For all those of you who voted for President Trump, there's no way out.
I mean, low-key, that's not bad. I don't care about the person who made it, but this is everything I wish Brandon was. I mean, dude, he's never going to be that. Dude, Dark Brandon activated. Dude, who killed more Trump supporters? Huh? Donald Trump with COVID or Dark Brandon with COVID? I'm going with that narrative. I realize, like, I don't know why I've never heard anybody say that. I'm surprised no one has, like, even in the irony poison Twitter side, no one has said, like, who's killed more Republicans with COVID? Dark Brandon has. That's right, dude. That's right, baby. Joe fucking Brandon, dude. How did he kill him? By fucking putting out the vaccine and then saying it's a libtard vaccine that gives your children homosexual autism? Duh. What do you mean? It was the plan. He said, Brandon came out and said, boys, the plan is simple. We're going to pump out the vaccine and we're going to ride it real hard. We're going to get like all the worst people that you fucking hate and despise to push for the vaccine. We're going to bring TikTokers to the White House. We're going to make sure that you guys think that the vaccine will turn you into a gay libtard. Okay? This way, you will not take the vaccine. You're already terrified of it anyway. And then you'll fucking die when you get COVID. Brilliant. Brilliant 5-head plan, dude. Fucking brilliant. Dark Brandon, once again. I believe in the Joe Macron variant. The dark mind of Brandon. That's right, dude. Brandon did that for you. This is when you get bored from the inaction for the Democratic Party, so you just write new lore in your head canon that makes them look cool, even in all of their ineptitude.
Hysterics we've come to expect from Fox, but O'Reilly would quickly begin to hone the ingredients that would bring viewers back again and again. David Brock notes how, from the start, the O'Reilly factor was revolutionary. He writes, opinion programming was still dominated by the crossfire format, the left and the right debating each other. Larry King, who hosted a non-ideological political and celebrity schmoozefest, owned primetime cable news. It was against CNN and Clinton that Fox would begin to find its footing. Ailes called CNN the Clinton News Network, and through Clinton's years in office, Fox covered Whitewater, a property development scandal that the Clintons were embroiled in, and the Monica Lewinsky scandal through the framing that the establishment elite, including CNN, ABC, and MSNBC, were complacent liberals covering for a corrupt and sleazy president. What was new was that Fox managed to weave this into a recurring narrative, an ongoing storyline that viewers could return to night after night. During the Lewinsky story, CNN and MSNBC grew by 40 and 53% respectively. Fox grew by 400%. The O'Reilly factor quickly became Fox News' first success. In a media landscape in which news usually just came and went, O'Reilly returned to single narratives that functioned much like a soap, an ongoing drama, a storyline that viewers had an emotional stake in. Rather than present the facts, O'Reilly editorialized, voiced his opinion, rallied against the elite. The first storyline was simple. Bill Clinton was a liar. From his tabloid empire, Murdoch knew, more than anyone, that sex and scandal sells more than anything. Fox made sure that the Lewinsky story was entertaining. It featured polls like, which of the following do you think better describes Monica Lewinsky? An average girl who was taken advantage of, or a young tramp who went looking for adventure and thrills? What is President Clinton more thankful for this Thanksgiving, still having a wife or still having a job? Passionate argument was valued in presenters above all else.
By the way, for the record, like, you know, the Me Too, like, liberals or whatever, like, listen to what James Carville had to say about Monica Lewinsky, okay? Just Google what that fucking rat fuck, unironic lizard person built directly inside of the swamps of the bayou, okay? What that motherfucker had to say when he was working with the Clintons at the time. Oh my lord, dude. Here, let's look at what James Carville had to say about fucking Monica Lewinsky. Was it $2 bill? Is that what it was? Is that what he said famously? I like that the National Review's writing about this. In my world, you don't abandon a guy over sex, you stick with him. That's what James Carville said famously, but that's not the worst thing he's ever said. Where was it? Come on. You can find any girl in a trailer park with a $2 bill by putting up a fucking $2 bill to come out and speak out against them. The entire DNC and the National Democratic Party treated her so badly it was an embarrassment and disgusting. Oh, yeah. No, it wasn't $100 through a trailer park. He said $2 through a trailer park. Oh, it was $100. I was wrong. Drag $100 through a trailer park and there's no telling what you'll find. That's what he said. That Bill Clinton could sexually pursue anyone he wanted, whether he wanted, in whatever manner he wanted, without significant consequence. By the time Stickin' was published in early 2000, Carville had already established himself as eager to smear any woman who accused the president of wrongdoing, declaring of Paula Jones in 1997, drag $100 through a trailer park and there's no telling what you'll find. The book performs a neat trick of moral jujitsu, arguing that Carville and other Democrats who defended the president throughout impeachment were true ethical leaders, while those Democrats who were repulsed by Lewinsky's scandal were unprincipled backstabbers.
The vote recount in the Bush-Gore election in 2000 also had the ingredients for a partisan nightly drama that viewers could return to. Fox overtook MSNBC in 2000, and by the spring of 2001, O'Reilly was beating Larry King in the ratings for the first time.
In his influential book, Thinking, Fast and Slow, Daniel Kahneman argues that we have two ways of thinking, fast and slow, System 1 and System 2.
Damn, this dude summarized it neatly.
System 1 is emotional, quick. It relies on instinct. It grabs attention. It fights or flights. It acts on autopilot and it speeds us up. It cements habits in place to work automatically. The other, System 2, is slower, more thoughtful, more deliberative. It thinks through problems. It's more cautious and rational and reflective. Both are necessary for human survival.
Fox News is System 1 news. 20 minutes after the towers were hit on 9/11, Fox unveiled an innovation, the crawl. It updated minute by minute, providing short, catchy soundbites. Day of Terror in the United States. 2 planes crashed into the World Trade Center in New York. WTC towers collapsed. Manhattan is sealed off. All train and bus services halted. Its graphics and text were bold and red. Terrorism hits America, they announced. The emotional coverage combined war and tragedy with patriotism. Presenter John Scott said, "Folks, it just bears repeating. This is a tremendous tragedy, yes, but we are still the most powerful nation on earth. It bears repeating. America is still standing. We are united, we are strong, and we will find out who did this." Next, the Fox logo was changed to include an American flag, and presenters began wearing American flag pins. The flag in the logo was so new that many at the network wondered if it was too crass, if they had already gone too far.
Damn, bro. Back when Fox News was like, "Did we go too far with the American flag?" Now it's like, if you don't fuck the flag before you start your show, they kill you. They bring the firing squad.
But MSNBC soon followed, rebranding itself as America's news channel and using catchy American flag-coloured graphics. One producer later said, "Roger likes things to be produced simply and overtly. For example, he likes words in graphics to be big." He said of the logo in the corner that he made his bigger than CNN's at the launch.
Ludwig is practicing early to beat you? Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking joking? Are you serious right now? Blood is actually grinding multiverse right now, right this very moment. Shut the fuck up. No, he's not. Bro, he earlier today told me he was touching grass and that because of that...
I think they're like $60.
Earlier today, he said he was touching grass and he never played. I told him I played one time. I told him I played multiverse one fucking time.
Platform to speak my shit. All right.
He's using a coach.
Yesterday, not thinking much of it, because I've been out of town for like the past couple weeks. And every time I shit, I gotta wipe my ass with paper, and I've not been doing that since I bought a bidet for myself 2 years ago. All right. So I tweeted out, "I don't understand how people are still pooping without a bidet. It's prehistoric behavior." After tweeting this out, I get non-stop replies being like, "Damn, Mr. Richie Rich. Oh, Moneybags is in the building telling us what we need to buy." Everyone's coming up with a goddamn excuse as to why their asshole is allowed to be a little...
I hate to agree with him right now, but he is so right about bidets. Anyway, we'll figure it out. Where's my bidet, bitch? You never gave me my bidet that you owe me. That's number one. Number two, bidets are cheap. They're $30. Y'all are fucking crazy for saying that bidets is like rich person behavior. The entirety of the fucking Muslim world, billions of people use bidets, okay? Are you telling me that motherfuckers in Indonesia are actually rich because they have bidets? No. It is a luxury that my asshole got used to, and the worst problem with bidets is that in America, it is not commonplace. So when I leave home, my asshole takes a beating, okay? And I don't like that. I do not like that at all. There is nothing that compares to the feeling of a completely clean butt that you get from rapid, consistent bidet usage, okay? Anyway, let's continue.
Then when CNN made its bigger, Roger made his bigger still. He kept doing that until CNN gave up. In an age of screens, terrorism, and media.
You're finally realizing the worth of bidets? Brother, I'm Turkish. I grew up with bidets my entire life. Before I came to the uncivilized, barbarian, Westoid nation of the United States of America, I did not even know of a world in which every toilet was equipped with a bidet. Okay?
We're beginning to be about something
finally,
similar,
he says.
Grabbing visual attention. In the aftermath of 9/11, Fox quickly led the clarion call for war. O'Reilly said that we're going to take out this Osama bin Laden. Now, whether we go in with air power or whether we go in with a Delta Force, he's a dead man walking. He should have been through long before this. He's been wanted for 8 years. Now they're going to go in and they're going to get him. If the Taliban government of Afghanistan does not cooperate, then we will damage that government with air power, probably. All right? We will blast them. 3 days after 9/11, O'Reilly interviewed Laurie Milroy, the author of Study of Revenge, Saddam Hussein's unfinished war against America. He said, "You sound like you're a person who says, hey, Saddam Hussein should be on the destruction death card along with Osama bin Laden. He should be target number 2, maybe." "I'd even say target number 1, she replied. Fox went on to hire a composer to write Liberation Iraq music. They wanted it to be emotional, intense, aggressive. One producer said,
Interesting that they were already blaming Iraq, a country that had nothing to do with 9/11. 3 days after 9/11, if only like they had, I don't know, if only the Republican strategist created propaganda mouthpiece for the Republican Party had been made aware of the interest that like Dick Cheney had in invading Iraq ahead of time.
More tom-tom drums because they had more urgency. I wanted it to sound like, I don't want to say war drums, but adverts for coverage included eagles and fighter jets and ostentatious war on terror logos. One ad read, Fox News Channel, the country at war. Stay with us for breaking news and live updates, fair and balanced. Exclusively from the team you trust. Fox News Channel, on the ground, in the air, reports from the front, inside the conflict, war coverage, second to none. Fox News Channel, the political fallout, with eyes around the world, a commitment here at home. The first place to turn for the latest.
Oh, Ludwig is calling me? What the fuck? Pick up the phone, you coward. Pick up the phone right now, dude.
What's up?
You're practicing, dude?
I'm